Hello and welcome to our brewing session video. Today we are going to be demonstrating a Belgian session.
Saison.
My name is Lyndon Ambry.
I'm Carrie Fitzpatrick.
So, starting off with where we got our grains, we went to Blackstone Valley Brewing Supplies. Please excuse the shaky video footage, but we did get our grains milled here. We also picked up our yeast from White Labs and our hops from here as well. It was a great business, really cool place to learn about beer. So we started the brewing process by making sure everything was super shiny. There was a cleaning kit included in our K6 brewing kit. So we used that to clean out our pots, pans, all of our utensils that we were going to be working. And then we immediately got going on the water. The water took a ridiculous amount of time to come up to temperature, like probably 45 minutes. But in the meantime, we made sure we had our grains ready, went over our diagram, and we made sure everything was ready to go.
As is typical with Belgian Saison, so we'll be using East Kent Goldings hops as well as Styrian Goldings hops and a White Labs Belgian Saison yeast. We used 8 pounds of Pilsner malt as well as 1/2 pound Vienna malt, 1/2 pound Carnunic malt, and 1/4 pound flaked wheat.
Oh yeah, look at that dough in. So this process took about 25 to 30 minutes to complete. We started with about 8 cups of grain and we slowly added in our water to maintain the temperature. We didn't have too much of a hard time keeping it in that 140 to 150 sweet spot, but we definitely noticed when you added more grains, the temperature did drop by like 5 to 10 degrees. We had plenty of water left over for sparging, and we did start with 5 gallons of Poland Springs, and we had our sparging water temp was running at 165 degrees. We did turn it down once the water volume decreased in our large pot, and it probably took, again, about 25 to 30 minutes to incorporate all of the grains and water that were necessary for our mashing process. It did smell phenomenal, and the only main issue we had was just keeping the bag liner attached to the inside of the bucket. But you can see here us pouring in some extra water into the top. Okay, so the next stage was just really messy, difficult, uncoordinated, and just like kind of a fun time, but very confusing. So we used a series of 2 pots to Vorloff. We did mix in hot water several times, about 3 times every 5 minutes throughout the process. The whole process probably took about, again, 25 to 30 minutes to complete. And we probably ran cycles, I would say, upwards of 30 times. Each cycle probably took about a minute to complete. And we used the 2 pots in series, putting one underneath another and just pouring back over the top. We did also use at this time an additional strainer just to remove some extra particles that we found were slipping through, just because the bag wasn't staying well attached to the upper lip of the 5-gallon bucket.
Once our wort ran clear, we used 165 degree water to sparge into our pot for kettling.
After we brought our kettle to a boil and held the boil for 15 minutes, we reserved 2 cups and prepared to add our hops. We took the 2 cups, covered it in tin foil, and put it in the refrigerator where it's resting right now to get down to 80 degrees. And throughout the whole process, we continued to skim the top, and then we added our East Kent Golding hops, which were added 15 minutes into the boil and will be in the boil for a total of 60 minutes. So after adding our cardamom pods and our Styrian Golding hops, we removed the wort from the stove and began to cool it in the sink with cold water. No ice was used, and we just ran a circulator over the bottom of it. So here is the addition of our inoculated yeast into the carboy. Made sure it was at the proper temperature first. It did take a little bit of time for us to develop that typical looking yeast foam on top. It didn't really start in the Pyrex pitcher. It took until it got into the carboy and was activated with the wort to happen. But we did see it nonetheless, so that's a positive sign. Only thing that I really was surprised by here was, even though we had really spent time to filter the wort, there was still a significant amount of solids that snuck through, and we had to clean the screen here 3 separate occasions. You can see this is like the second to last pour here, and as I finish, just look at the head on top. You can really see that all of those hops and just dissolved solids really clumped together. So this was 24 hours after. There's my cat Fiona. You can see we have nice movement from the airlock. A lot of gases being released. It definitely had that distinctive beer aroma, but a little bit different. And you can see the yeast on top, and then as I come down to the side here, you're really going to be able to see the multi-layers. We were a little concerned because there was like some brown residue in there as well on top of the foam, but this did eventually blend in and all become one homogeneous solution. So we'll look forward to bottling soon, but for now we're just going to keep an eye on the temperature for the beer, and hopefully all goes well. Thank you so much for watching.